Everyone, welcome to the reorg meeting of the Connecticut Board of Education. At this time, I will be starting off the meeting until the board elects a president to take over the meeting. So, can I get a motion and a second to call the public session back to order? All in favor? Aye. Now, can everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for our servicemen and women. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. I'm going to start off with the roll call. We have Mr. Brian Murphy. Here. Mrs. Marisol Mallon. Here. Mrs. Lee Kennedy. Mrs. Jacqueline Napolitano-Furno. Here. Mrs. Mylan Augulus. Dr. Adams. Present. Ms. Villarreal. Present. Mr. Kohler-Hefar.
I am here.
Mrs. Hutchinson.
Present.
And myself, Jessie Kemp, the district clerk. So at this time, I would like to accept nominations for the office of President of the Connecticut Central School District's Board of Education.
I would like to nominate Lee Kennedy.
I second that.
Do I have any other nominations?
I'll go with Lee as well.
If there are no further nominations, is that okay? Yes. So for the nomination for Mrs. Lee Kennedy for board president, please let me know your vote after I call your name. Mrs. Augulus?
I have two questions before I vote. They're both yes or no answers. Are you for CRT is the first question, and the second question is, are you for mandating vaccines for our children?
I don't think, the answer is no for either one, but I think that's totally improper and not a reason not to elect someone as board
I was
president.
just asking a question. If you're going to be the president, I just want to know where you stand on those topics. I think that's a fair question to ask.
I answered it.
Okay, thank you.
So Mrs. Augulus, your vote?
Since the answer is yes, since the answer is no to both, then my answer is yes.
Mrs. Kennedy, your vote? For your nomination to president. You could abstain if you'd like to.
No.
Okay. Mrs. Mallon?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Napolitano-Furno?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Ms. Kennedy, will you come forward and take your oath of office, please? Mrs. Hutchinson will do it for you. Congratulations, Mrs. Kennedy. And at this time, I would like to now accept nominations for the office of Vice President of the Connecticut Central School Board's Board of Education. So a nomination for Vice President, please.
I'll go. I nominate Mylan.
Would anyone else like to nominate someone? Since the nominations are now closed, once I call your name, please cast your vote for Ms. Mylan Augulus as Vice President. So we'll start with you, Mrs. Augulus. How would you like to vote?
So my answer is no to both, as far as the two questions I asked, and yes, thank you for the nomination.
Mrs. Kennedy, your vote? Yes. Mrs. Mallon?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Napolitano-Ferno?
Yes.
Okay, congratulations, Ms. Augulus. At this time, we will have Ms. Hutchinson do your oath of office.
Solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Vice President of the Board of Education according to the best of my ability. Congratulations.
Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Adams?
Just so you have, this is just a simple agenda, so it has everything just for you to reference.
Okay.
And I'll finish the minutes somewhere else.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Linda Adams,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of superintendent
the duties
Policy Series 2160. All board members have to read and sign these. They're very important. They're our code of ethics, our credo, which is how we should run a school district, no other way, our ethics exhibit, and our ethics regulation. How do we go about doing that, everyone?
I did provide a printed copy to all of the board members this evening, and then just review it and sign it. I do believe the deadline's sometime, I think the second meeting in August, so if you could just review the credo and sign it. I did receive it back from 3 already.
Okay, thank you. Now we have oath of office for appointed officers. Well, we have to appoint them first? They are appointed here.
Yes, the other officers are like the district treasurer and such. And if those appointments go through, I will administer those oaths within 30 days during their normal workday.
Oh, okay, that's different. They usually do it here, sometimes anyway. Okay, we'll move on to minutes. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of June 7th, 2021 for the special meeting. Someone like to make a motion?
Don't we need to motion and second on the appointment of the officers of H?
She's saying no.
We don't have to motion and second to appoint the officers, so that way, that's the district clerk pro tem, the district
Oh,
treasurer.
yes, yes, we do.
Okay. Jesse, do you want to say those names? I don't have that list.
Okay. There is a full agenda, printed agenda that was provided to you guys too in the blue folder. The appointment of officers is myself, the district clerk, Miss Christina Inzerillo as the district clerk pro tem, Diana DeSico as the district treasurer, and Penny Friska as the deputy treasurer.
Yeah, you need a motion and a second.
Is there a motion and a second?
Motion.
What is, to the minutes of June 7th, special meeting, need a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second? All in favor? Okay, we'll move on to the minutes of June 17th, 2021, special
I
meeting.
didn't get a vote, a yes vote from, I just got an abstention from Mylan.
Yes? Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to be doing committees. There are 4 committees.
There's the June 17th meeting minutes as well?
I thought I just did that one.
The June 7th you did.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the June 17th special meeting. Motion,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Now we can move on to board members needed for committees. There's 4 committees, the Audit Committee, the Health and Safety Committee, the Policy Committee, and the Citizens Advisory Committee.
I'd like to do the policy this year. I'm going to go ahead and try policy. I haven't tried that. I did the health and safety for the last 2 years.
I'll do policy with you.
If that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to still do though the emergency. Does that mean I still do the emergency one?
Okay. Question, the Audit Committee, isn't that the whole entire board? Okay, so everyone's doing that.
I'll do the health and safety.
And none of these meetings are usually in the evening, some of them. Linda?
During the day.
Yeah, we only want evening meetings. I'll do the health and safety, I'll be your alternate. And I will do Citizens Advisory Committee, if anyone wants to be my alternate.
What is that? What's this?
It's basically about technology.
Oh, that's you.
I'll be your alternate to that.
Okay. Okay, L, recommended action reorganization items. I need a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any conversation?
I have a bunch on the,
On L?
no, I'm trying to find where this is. Because this is what, you guys have it numbered, it's like strange. It's numbered on one and it's lettered on the other.
Well, while you're looking, a lot of,
No, like on here, number 5.
Yeah, okay.
It's actually subject 5, that's what I'm saying.
as you're looking, I'm just going to explain. A lot of us send our questions in
I have a question.
to the district early on so we can get the answers in order to expedite the meeting, because it's not necessary and laborious that you should hear every little question.
I have a question. Regarding the school lunch, I saw that you set the parameters for the new lunch prices, which I believe is the same as last year.
It's the same as last year, but lunch will be free for all students as well.
I just wanted to confirm lunch
It's a
is free.
weird technicality.
So lunch, it will be free. If a child
Yes.
wants to get a second lunch, that's the, okay.
Yes.
Oh, I got, you know what,
That's one of my questions, but it's lower on during the reorg. I had a question for that. It was where did we put the money that was allocated for the budget for school lunch last year that we didn't use for the funds? The funds that we normally allocate for school lunch last year, where did those funds go since it was this year federally funded free lunch, and now this year it's gonna be free lunch? So is that money being reallocated into the reserves? Where is it going?
So everything is transferred from the general fund. It's a part of interfund transfers at the very end. It's a 9,000 function code. And it just means that there's less transferred from the general fund. But when we set up the budget, there's not a fund balance for school lunch. Typically with this district, every year we're transferring from general fund to move into school lunch based on a lot of things that take place.
I think I know Jackie's
it's a
asking.
budget line, we normally have a budget line. for
Yeah,
school.
transfer to school lunch, right.
So what I'm saying is that money that we normally allocated for school lunches, what are we doing with that money? We're just leaving it? Yeah, but what are we doing with it? We're just,
So we still have to pay employees insurance and all that is still exists. What we were transferring for is the shortages on the lunches. So in other words, if, kids for.
we this year it's gonna be federally
Right.
funded.
So
Meaning that we're not gonna be in the red pretty much when it comes to that.
the Child Nutrition Department of SED allowed school districts to first do an SFSP application, and then they allowed us to switch to SSO, which got us about $1 more per meal, which is a lot of money. So for May and June, we saw a lot more in reimbursement than we did typically throughout the remainder of the year. But it's difficult because there were still parents that were afraid to allow their kid to buy lunch, and maybe we're still bringing it, but we are trying to bring back measures to make sure every student is buying this way we can count them and get reimbursed for it.
Yeah, I don't think it's what I'm,
Is it 100% reimbursable? So the exact amount of money that we paid for
It's-
per meal? So if there's
Yeah.
no money being transferred out, there was money in a line for transfer, is what Jackie's asking. Where is that money going since we didn't have to transfer it to overcome the debt?
I don't know right now, but I can certainly get that to you.
yeah, just trying to find out where's the money, like, if we have that extra money, is there something
Yeah.
we can do to utilize maybe something extra for the kids? I'm saying to give it to them back that way, since it technically goes to the kids to begin with.
Sure.
What do you usually transfer from?
It's just general funds to either special aid funds, school lunch, capital. Go on.
Okay. I want the questions for the public. Okay, so item 5, Linda, it would be authorization of the surety bonds. Let's see, it has to do with the compensation for certain positions. Now, who decided on this amount, the 2 million? How much does the bond cost? What is its purpose?
So the purpose is because of education law. That's something that every school district has to have. It protects the district. It's for the assistant for business. It's for the school district treasurer and for the deputy treasurer. So it's the same people every single year just to protect the district.
Okay, item number 7, designation of official district newspapers. Is there a designated paper that does not have a subscription cost to the public? What happened to Newsday, which is the most popular paper in our district?
It's one of the three. Newsday and Suffolk Times for our bids. That's what the designation is for. And then the New York Times is for administrative vacancies, and we're part of a BOCES service for that. So Newsday and Suffolk Times would be our go-to papers for local things.
Now, do we have 3 bids? Because normally, aren't we asking for 3 bids, or are we not doing that? Just in general, I'm saying, aren't we asking for, because most of the things I'm about to ask, I didn't see 3 bids on anything. I saw mostly 1 or 2.
This is just our designation to use these for advertisement. There's no bids involved in that.
Number 8 says
The district treasurer.
is that the person who doesn't sign as well, though, right? This can't be the same as the signer?
No, it's like, so payroll, we had been written up the prior year from our external auditor saying that it can't be the same person, and we fixed that, so it won't be an action binding on this year.
That's why I remember you can't.
What is petty cash used for in each of these schools and departments? What is legally permitted use of these funds?
So an example of petty cash would be, let's say, we had to send something out overnight to an insurance company, or a school had to send something overnight. That's petty cash for the person to be able to go to FedEx, $10 to ship overnight, and then that person's reimbursed through there.
Can I get a list from last year's petty cash transactions?
Sure.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Can we just go back on that? In today's day and age, let's just use Slocum's first one I'm noticing here at $50. That's not very much, I don't think.
No, it's not about how much. I was saying,
I'm-
why aren't we using cash to give to the, to do things more for the kids? It doesn't look like we allocate even, it doesn't look like we're allocating. I know I went to all the graduations.
And I said this to Linda, that I thought that all of them didn't seem fair across the board on how things were decorated, how things were set up, what was done for the kids. If you have additional petty cash that you're able to give them or not, or what are we doing with the petty cash that's in there, it should really be given back to the kids at some point.
Okay.
It doesn't look like that's how it's being used, but I mean, I'd like to see the transactions. And
I think part of that is just the normal day-to-day doing business. Sometimes things come up. So really, that portion isn't about the children. It's about running the district as a business. And sometimes you need those funds to do certain things.
I don't think that's what, I'm just saying from what I've heard, it's not how it's always used. Sometimes it's used towards gifts and things like that. That's why I'm saying, can I see a
Yes,
list?
that's actually in each principal's code for principal supplies. And for the bigger schools, there's also a graduation code. So that wouldn't be this.
Which is what we were saying, that some extra money should have been allocated for certain schools due to size. That was what we said last year.
Yeah, and we do that. We give them a per pupil expenditure.
Authorization of board standing committees. Every year it looks like this list keeps getting smaller and smaller. What happened to the other committees that are under board purview? The list from 2014 to 2015 I've looked at, it looks like tech and now grounds were off. Is there a reason why?
So health and safety is a grounds committee as well, and the technology committee is under 19 as a citizens advisory committee. We also have a facilities advisory committee that is, I think, used to be listed under here, but it's also a citizens advisory committee, and that is the facilities advisory committee. So there's still 5.
Number 18, I guess it ties in with it, because I saw the board oversight committee. Who decided to take away the board committee without speaking to the board? I don't remember that.
These are just the administrators that are part of the facilities advisory committee. And the charge enumerated below, I'm sorry, did not get printed on there, but the charge for the facilities advisory committee, which is also a board committee, And we would need 2 people for that one as well. So I don't think I have anybody for those committees. So for the Facilities Advisory Committee, I have Mylan and Lee. Okay, so those are the administrators that are already part of it, and the charge reads, due to retiring debt, the district seeks input from the community to propose updates needed to our facilities for the safety and continual maintenance. The board requests this to be accomplished for potential proposition for capital improvements before or during the annual budget vote. So that's the actual charge that's enumerated. Once this is voted on, and I have 2 board members, which right now are Lee and Mylan, then I will put out a help wanted ad to get our community representatives to be appointed over the course of the next 2 board meetings before we meet.
$32, $35, and I think it's $43. This is for all of them. Just looking to see. Okay. Is there a reason why we're adding more responsibility without additional compensation?
This is just part of her position.
I was looking over, you originally had given me a list of what that position did a while back, and I looked it over, and it didn't have any of this.
So the census is once every 10 years, really, that we just need to have that check that the all of our residents that are in our district are actually part of the census. That's something that we just appoint every year. It's part of Mrs. Santos' central registration piece. The other piece which one did you ask me about? The residency officer, 34?
43.
43.
I'm just telling you, when I looked at all the stuff you had given me a while back on who did what, it just seems like we're adding responsibility after responsibility to one position, and it looks like we're taking, like, I did see something, and I could be wrong, something about the capital improvements. I saw something along the lines of that, and I thought that went under the assistant to the super position. But it didn't look like it was under that one, and I could be wrong, but I thought it said something like it went to this position, and I thought that was crazy.
Capital project officer, is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about? Yeah, that's the director of purchasing, because she does all the work with the purchasing pieces of it to, and the deposition of all that to Albany.
Is there a reason why that wouldn't go to the assistant who actually is the one that does all the work?
She does the paperwork part of it, so she does all the applications to Albany. She works with the architect to get all the applications to Albany so that we can get
I
reimbursed.
understand that, but what I'm saying is, we're already adding and adding and adding more to a position.
Different person. This is Joanne Sharrett, who's director of purchasing.
Okay, what I'm saying is, it just seems like the way that it looked, it seemed like that should have fell under the assistant.
Very different.
Okay,
Yeah, he's
like I said,
more the clerk of the works, making sure that everything is happening on the ground correctly. She's the one who does the paperwork and the filings.
Okay. Number 42. Hold on, I just lost my spot. It's about the senior account clerk position. Number 42.
The auditor for student activities.
Which is, I had made notes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I did it while I was at work, so.
That's okay.
I would, if a senior account clerk position, including auditing experience, is in the job description, I wanted to see if the civil service or union contract job description, when they get this, if it does auditing or not. It seems like the way that it was written, it seemed more about politics than it seemed about the appointment itself. You understand what I'm saying? It's number 42. Let me just.
She's the appointment of auditor for student activities. This used to be done by Helen Maloney. It needs to be done by someone who is external to their job. And it's actually one of the most inexpensive things that we do, because you could hire an external auditor, but it would be significantly more money than this, and she does this outside of her workday.
Okay, and number 46 to 51. Is there a reason this wasn't sent out to bid with the 3 bids? Is there a reason why we're not doing the 3 bids after that was what we were saying for competitive? I mean, I know a lot of other districts are getting more than 3 bids. We're not even getting 2.
The external and internal are both on the final year of extensions for their RFPs. The asset valuation, I believe, maybe through BOCES, I need to double check on that. You said 48 as well?
It was 46 through 51.
48 is arbitration services.
Yeah, we have no choice.
Insurance brokers do go out. And you said 46 as well, right?
Yeah, 46 through 51.
That has always been through Omni. I don't know that there is another 403B entity.
Have we received any
Bids to reject from, on any of this on the consent agenda tonight, across the board? Did we get any bids that we rejected?
Yes, there's at least one or two that are being rejected tonight.
Okay. I'm at now number 47. 47 is designation of insurance brokers. What are the fees we pay to these brokers?
That's all different, so I'd have to send that to you separately.
Okay, if you can do that, I'm sorry, that was. Number 52, that's number appointment of confidential employees. What are the duties and shouldn't the DC also be listed?
She's already a confidential employee. Confidential employees are so designated because they provide services to an administrator who bargains with the variety of different bargaining units that we have. So they would be privy to the negotiations, so therefore cannot be part of their bargaining unit. So for example, Christina Incerillo, who is my assistant, is a confidential employee because I work with all the different bargaining units as with negotiations, and she helps me type up things and sends things to the board, and so she would know what the negotiations look like. So if she was part of the clerical unit, she could give them all the secrets. So we don't really want that to happen.
I gotcha. And going back, I'm sorry, because I was all over the place. 24, authorization of New York State tuition rates.
Sure.
Will these children no longer have transportation?
So New York State tuition rates is set by the SED. It has nothing to do with transportation at all. It has to do with if a child is placed in another district, we have to pay that rate that's been set by New York State Education Department. So it has nothing to do with transportation at all.
Do you know what that rate is?
No, we won't know till mid-fall generally.
Number 33, going back, sorry, appointment of attendance officer.
Yep.
Is there, that's actually, I don't think that's the right, I don't think I have it numbered right. I had written, and I don't think it's numbered right. Why isn't our tech department, I think this is for the live streaming, why don't we have our tech department doing the live streaming? I mean, we just hired a director, and we're hiring other positions in that tech department. Is there a reason why when we do live streaming, we can't have them do it? I mean,
We're talking about the graduation ceremonies
Yeah,
as
and all that,
contracts.
yep.
Outside is a very unique thing, and you really want a professional so that has a good quality to it, that does that. Obviously, we have folks live streaming today. Most of our indoor events were done by our techs, and they were part of the outdoor as well, but there's there's unique settings in outdoor that you want an outdoor contractor to do.
Yeah, it's $10,000.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, are you saying that next year we can't, I would rather pay our guys additional monies and have them do it if they can.
I think it might be an equipment issue, but we can certainly look into it.
I mean, for $10,000, we could purchase some good equipment, I would say.
Probably not, honestly, but we will find out for you. We can certainly find out for you.
I have more, but I'm asking that during public discussion.
Okay. We need an all in favor.
I need an approval. All approve? All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carried. Personnel matters. 1 and 2, need a motion?
Wait, there was something I needed to quote.
We need a motion first. Second?
Second.
Any questions?
I have a question.
But I think it's number 38, I don't know if that's, hold on. Is that where, you know what I'm talking about?
This is the appointments for those different,
Well, the position. Yeah, what I'm saying is, I'm not gonna vote yes for something because I'm not for the salary. So isn't that part of this, at least?
yeah.
It was number 38 on my sheet.
They haven't voted on the computer, it hasn't voted now.
I know, I'm not on the computer because my computer is got like 10% left.
You guys put your mics on.
One or two you're gonna talk about?
Yeah, you talk about it.
I noticed that Science Olympion is not listed as far as the recommended action, personnel matters. Are we bringing that back?
I don't know if there was an applicant. Mr. Kolahifar, do you know if there's an applicant for Science Olympiad advisor?
I'm sorry, I haven't gone through all of the applicants. You know, what's being appointed tonight are the people who did apply, so I don't know if an applicant, if it's not there, my assumption has always been there hasn't been an applicant for that position.
And when was this posted? Because,
This gets posted in June.
okay, are we gonna put another post out for this one? Because I particularly like to see this club run again.
Yes, what we do is, because the teachers obviously are not here during the summertime, we wait till September, and we give a new crop of maybe new hirees to get an opportunity to apply for these clubs or extracurricular activities, so that happens in early September.
So the person who originally was, advising this club, does she have an opportunity? Do you reach out to her first, and then if she's not interested, then it goes? I mean, I know it still has a post, but
I know that, you know, Mary Losing most likely would do that, or the director or the chairperson would most likely do that, but I don't, my office doesn't reach out to people who formerly did clubs to see if they're interested in doing them again.
okay, because I heard she did a phenomenal job. That was actually our first year doing it. Then COVID hit, but she had one full year prior to that, and she did an excellent job with a new club, a new starter club, and I heard she was amazing. So if maybe someone can ask if she.
I can certainly ask the administrators to reach out, the principal and the director.
Yeah, she was phenomenal. So they have the sign language at the high school. Are we going to start considering sign language at our middle schools and potentially our elementary school? Yeah.
That would be something that we would negotiate to add more clubs or change the clubs. So that would be something you would do during negotiations.
Yeah, Jackie and I attended the last elementary, and I showed.
Oh, I loved it. And they did that another one too, I think Pearl.
Pearl, yes.
I was told though,
I was told when I questioned that the reason it wasn't done is because the person who does it was only able, only some music people do sign language.
Well, what's really funny is the one at John Pearl was actually a clerical that taught the kids how to do it.
awesome, God bless them.
That's right. Use your talents.
She could be a clerical on special assignment.
There you go, to teach sign language, everybody.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful watching the kids do that. It was beautiful. Like you guys do the lunch and language.
We don't have, and we're about to appoint someone who we can ask in a few minutes.
Are we bringing Spanish back, right?
We need an all in favor. All right, well, then I get to introduce some folks. So we have some folks in the audience today that are joining us in new roles, some familiar faces and some new faces. So please welcome with me Mr. Robert Hauser, who will be the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations starting next Monday. Mrs. Villarreal is leaving us and took a position in another district, and we wish her luck. So a very familiar face and a new and exciting role for us is Mrs. Cheryl Sosa, who will be joining us as the Director of E&L and LOTE. And you got your marching orders already. They want sign language in every classroom.
Sign language.
I mean, if you're, my dream, every student graduates with an ECHO fighter book.
Yes.
Whether it's sign language, Spanish, French, Italian, Farsi, whatever it is, every student should be able to see it. So
So at the end of next year, we're gonna have everyone be bilingual?
It really would be great to see it in the elementary level. I know that from experience, if you learn it from a young age, it's so much easier to learn.
It's so much easier to learn everything.
Absolutely.
That's true. All right, another familiar face who is in a new and exciting role is Mr. Vincent Malafronte, who will be our Director of Fine and Performing Arts. And there's a couple familiar faces, one more familiar than the other.
Can I brag on Mr. Melafonte a second?
Not yet. Oh, you want to stay there? All right. Well, I do. We lost a huge member of the Connecticut community a few years ago when Mr. Lasher passed away. We've had Mr. George Rockwin in place as an interim in that period of time, and he helped mentor Mr. Malafronte for a long period of time, and we're really excited for him to take on this new role. So I know that you want to brag, Lee. Go ahead.
I watched him grow up here in this district. I watched what he did. I saw his accomplishments. I saw his passion, his love for music, his kindness towards others, which probably is more important than the passion for music, honestly. I watched him in the plays. I watched him perform. I watched him compete against my son. He's just a special person, and we're very fortunate to have you.
And finally, returning after a brief interlude outside of the district, we have Mr. Robert Cassane, who will be our Director of Social Studies and Business, who's returning to us. So welcome back. And that's our administrative hiring for tonight.
Okay, from 2 to 8. Any questions?
Yes, I have questions. So, I noticed here on buildings and grounds that there was overtime.
There was overtime?
Number 4?
Correct. And I'd like to see, for future reference, the last year, I guess that will be for you, sir. So in the future, I'd like to see a comparison from 1 year to the present, so the prior year to the present year. So this way I can see, like, for example, I'm asking about overtime. So I want to know what the overtime was paid out last year versus this time this year. So it's just a question, but it was more of a statement to say that I'd like to see a comparison between the 2 years. The other question I have is the business official has an overtime as well. As far as an admin, I didn't know that there was overtime.
No, that's for clerical.
Oh, that's for clerical. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I also would like to say I appreciate the trial balance that was recommended by the auditor. I prefer to see things that way. So my question is, as far as the trial balance goes, I know that you did it per bank account and you reconciled it that way. The other thing that I'd like to see, if there's can be any additions or just modifications to the trial balance, is I like to see, like, say, for example, utilities. I like to see payroll. The payroll could be, doesn't have to be broken down by departments, but just an overall of that, and meaning also breaking it down with the FICA, the FICA and all that stuff. So can that be also incorporated into that trial balance? Okay. I see that for 2014, there was some reserves left for the 2014 capital reserve. I believe was 190,714.30. How long has those monies been sitting there? And is there any purpose or repurpose for the future of that money if that 2014 has been completed?
Mylan, I don't know when it's approved. Capital projects, capital fundings are good for 10 years from voter approval. So we have to go back and figure out that piece of it. I don't know.
I just want to know if there was any open items. That's why, to ask why that money's still sitting there.
So that's part of the director's role is reconciling each of the projects. So now that we know that those monies are there, we look at the scope of work that we have going on in the district right now and look and see if there's one chunk of money that's also mentioned in the previous project that would give us a little bit of wiggle room and latitude to finish the project we're currently working on.
Oh, okay.
If at the end there is still monies available, the district has the opportunity to put that towards debt service. That's one of the ways to.
Aye. I'm gonna pull something for a separate vote.
Second?
Yeah, I have questions. Yes.
I have two. I see that you're joining with Southampton for the science supplies. I'm trying to think of, we normally do that, right?
We
usually-
piggyback.
Yeah, we piggyback
Yeah.
and all,
Mhm.
okay. So now, my last question is, well, no, actually, I'm sorry, I have another one. Integra E-rate?
Yes.
Do we normally do that every year?
Yes.
was mine too.
Okay.
It is not new. They're one of the only companies that work with E-rate and file in order for us to get our E-rate funds back. They do a great job so that we can get as much funding back from E-rate as possible for technological, usually for telecommunications, thank you, for libraries and schools.
Can I jump in and ask a question on this, or you have anything? Why isn't Whitman's performing the service? Who's done it, so who did it in the past? It was,
For Integra, for E-rate? That's telecommunications. It's like internet service providers and that like. That would be, it wouldn't be Whitson's, that's our food service.
no, I have something else. Who performed this before?
Integra's been done it forever.
Okay, because I hadn't seen that.
So my last question is, I noticed that you're accessing some books. So we have a vision for, which is our math books, which is grades 3 to 5. And so are we now using Math and Focus as our number one source, and then everything else is sort of an addition?
I can't answer that for you. Dean would be able to answer that for you.
Okay, so the history books have been accessed. Some of them were in good condition.
Mylan, could you put your mic on? We can't hear you.
So the history books, some of them were excess, some of them were in actually good condition. But I do see that they were quite dated.
Yeah.
So I was never able to understand is obviously if a book is torn or ruined, obviously we want to replace those things, but history doesn't change.
No, it goes on though.
It goes on.
Yeah,
I understand that.
There's 13 more years of history that have happened since those books were purchased.
Okay.
And the books are 2-3 years behind anyway. They're not completely up to date when you buy them, so it could be 15 years or more of history that's missing.
Okay, so the books you are buying encompasses your Up to date, well.
As
probably
up to
till
date as
last year.
possible,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, mine is just, number 23 was the question, were bids, that was where it was supposed to be. Did we receive any bids to reject?
Yeah.
What did we reject?
Equipment for the cafeteria.
And are we getting the 3 bids, or what was that's
Yeah,
what?
the rates were just too high, so we're going back to piggyback off of the Levittown cafeteria equipment bid.
Number 24, that was the one, I'm sorry about that from before. That's okay. I'm sorry about that, that was this is the one, will these children no longer have transportation? It's the bid rejection recommendation, transportation, children with specialized needs, school year and summer. Are we making sure that they have transportation, or will these children no longer have transportation?
This is children who have door-to-door transportation, so we will absolutely be providing that, whether it's through our own internal bus
Well,
drivers or.
Because it says bid rejection, it kind of caught my eye,
Yeah.
especially for special needs
No,
children.
they have door-to-door transportation. We figured something else out.
Okay, just making sure. That's all I got.
Northrop Grumman and Suffolk Transportation for continually giving us scholarships for our children?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on, Ms. Napolitano-Ferno, was there something else you wanted to do?
I want to pull number 3 for a separate.
Just give me a second, I wanna see what number 3 is. I'll kind of.
All in favor for number 3?
We need a motion and a second for number 3.
I thought we had motion before everything.
You had a
Okay,
motion for the
and
consent.
second for number 3.
Motion.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
I'm abstaining due to the financial aspect of it.
You should be saying no or yes if you understand it.
I actually spoke to Lisa, and I said that I would be a yes for the position. I'm not a yes for the financial aspect that goes along with the position. So that's why it's not really a no, because I'm for a yes for the appointment, I'm a no for the financial aspect of it. So since
But
it's
the
not
appointment,
separate, it's
the
a no.
appointment comes with the financial aspect of it, so if you're pulling it to discuss.
But I wasn't for that financial, and what I'm saying is, so, to me, it's not a no for the appointment, it's a no for the financial portion of it, so I'm just gonna abstain from it, since I can't vote no separately.
That's, it's fine.
Yeah, I just,
That's your decision, how you want to vote. It's okay. But typically, if you know, I think because you're ambivalent about the situation, you think abstention is your best way to go for this vote.
Yes, because I can't agree to an exorbitant change in salary of any position to that degree in one shot.
okay. All right. So now we move on to Q, new business discussion items. Board of Ed discussion. Is there anything the board would like to discuss?
Yes, I wanna discuss the email I sent to Linda, but if you guys wanna go first.
Well, there's a list of topics there already, reserves, lesson plans, enrollment, positions.
Oh, those, I know, but am I the one that put them all there? Probably.
Yes.
This is so lonely, nobody wants to jump in.
I asked about, I did send an email about the golf cart.
Yes, we wanted clarification where we use the golf cart. We use golf carts in the back of the high school to transport students who are injured, to have our athletic trainer get to fields more quickly. And Henry Melchiona actually gave us another one, slightly bigger, so it'll be easier to transport kids that are injured. So that was very kind of him and his organization.
Will it also help seniors, especially with some of these bigger things and the.
So generally, we don't have the liability insurance to transport folks. when we do have large games, like we've had finals and rounds of playoffs, we do actually put buses out onto the field and bring folks all the way back, all the way to the baseball field. So
We had talked
we've done
offline
that.
about Mr. Maniaci getting some access to that since he's always on the field and doing a great service for all the students out there. We can talk about that offline.
Because he is an employee, he could absolutely get in the golf cart and take a ride out.
That's great.
Okay, so I have the questions. Would you like me to start reading the answers I have for you?
Yes,
Okay.
what the questions that were in regard to as CRT, critical race theory.
Yep.
Is there anything being taught or any kind of publications in our district as it sits right now that have anything to do with critical race theory? And I do mean the curriculum, whether it has a different name on it, whether it's considered DEI, whether it's considered wit or wisdom, or whether it's considered some sort of diversity critical theory. Anything of that sort should be something that the board should have to review, because I know for myself, I'm 100% against it. So I would like to know if that's being done, and I have had something sent to me that show professional development in that field and work that's been in classrooms. So those are the questions that I
Yes,
sent.
so I'm going to actually hand this ball to Mr. Hussein as he starts to dig into the curriculum that's being put on the ground for our K through 12 kids. New pair of eyes to kind of take a look at that and see anything. Honestly, until CRT reared its ugly head earlier this year, I had never even heard of it. So the idea that it's being taught here and I've never heard of it, I would be really shocked and very disappointed, because that's not something that is in the New York State curriculum right now, and we shouldn't be teaching things that are not in the New York State curriculum for our students.
Well, and the problem, I think, also is that it's had many different names and many different ways of being, because I've heard about it for years because of my career is, we've actually been very much against it, most of my people in my field.
I get it.
And unfortunately, it does have 10 different names that it goes by. And I did go through Brain Pop. I was extremely unhappy that that's being used in our district and that kids have open ability to just go on those sites, some of those sites. That's bad. That needs to be looked at, and it either needs to be addressed or pulled for the board to review.
Okay, so I actually didn't get any update from the Director of Social Studies because she's actually in another district at this point. But I did get an update from Mrs. Berger, who is the Director of Mathematics, and she said, some of my elementary and middle school teachers use Brain Pop with the students. I've seen it used for videos to explain concepts. It's an animated robot that explains concepts at the appropriate level, and sometimes students go on and play games with it. I also got an update from Mrs. Hanaway, whose email I can't find at this second. Give me 1 second. I got an update from Mrs. Pulliam, who's the Director of Instructional Technologies. She said that we have subscriptions to 3 areas of Brain Pop. Brain Pop Junior, K through 3, and Brain Pop ELL, which is English language learners. Brain Pop is known for its animated, child-friendly videos, introducing or reinforcing concepts with the options of teachers to assign literary-based activities to students through their dashboard. These activities include quizzes, concept maps, drawings, and creating their own animated content review videos. So I think that there's a ton of lessons on there that are appropriate, and maybe there are some that are not appropriate. And we can actually get from Mrs. Pulliam as part of our subscription what lessons we believe shouldn't be part of the curriculum, and we can have those shut off. But I don't think taking away the actual subscription would really be appropriate, but we could certainly narrow down what we can have kids look at.
Absolutely, because I really believe if September, a lot of that is on there, you're gonna have a lot of parents in here flooding this place angry.
We will certainly look through it.
Because I took the whole weekend to watch Brain Pop until my brain was about to pop, to be perfectly honest. It was a lot, and I watched every single piece of the social studies, and everyone was getting me more annoyed with what's on there for children to watch. If parents saw what I was watching, they would not have been okay with it. Especially since I don't know if my own child has seen this, and I don't want to also bring it to a child's attention to ask, did you see this?
No, and we have new administrators that are more than willing to take a look at that, and if it's not part of the curriculum, it shouldn't be accessible to our kids. You asked me about DEI, or wit and wisdom. We do not use wit or wisdom. We do use an organization called DEI, but they're Distinctive Educators Institute. It has nothing to do, it's Mrs. Sarah Cordova. She does a lot of our literacy training. She was helped developing our middle school writing curriculum for a year or so. We've continued to work with Ms. Cordova at the middle and elementary levels through 2020, but it is not DEI, meaning diversity, diversity and inclusivity, equality and inclusivity. I do have to tell you, just so that you know, and I'm not, just at the summer law conference that you all have in your booklets, just so that you know, I don't know what presentation this is, but it's slide number 12 on page 6. It's probably one of the newest regulations that we need to do. The Office of Child and Family Services, by April 2022, will have to update their training for mandated reporters to include protocols that reduce implicit bias in the decision-making process, with strategies for identifying adverse childhood experiences and guidelines to assist in recognizing signs of abuse or maltreatment while interacting virtually. So mandated reporters will have 3 years from the date of April 1, 2022 to receive that updated training. So that's something that's coming down out of the regulatory agencies of the state.
That was another thing. I have a teacher who reached out and told me that from another district, or a teacher from another district in Suffolk County, who said that they got an email from New York State in the spring about implementing critical race theory into our curriculums. Except they called it DEI, and that was, which is diversity, equality, equity, and inclusion. It really is a very manipulative way, and an intentional way for people to push something that parents have a right to parental choice. The same way we give parents the right, if they want their kids to review, when we have the children of 5th and 6th grade seeing, absolutely. And this shouldn't be in our schools, period. But if New York State is gonna demand something, then we need to send a letter and let them know where we stand, or at least where whoever on the board stands.
Jackie, about LLI. Let me get that one.
The special ed, I had 2 questions about special ed, and I've asked now for the director to come, and I was told she'll be here on August 3rd.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep.
So we can speak about some of the special ed, other things that we'd like to go over.
Yep, so
See
let
how
me
all the kids
find-
did this year, and how they're making out, with the summer program that they're doing. I saw Dean sent us something that was great, but still, I'd like to make sure that in the beginning of the school, they're ready, because,
Right, it was
they're
a
gonna
hard
need
year.
help.
It was a hard year. Okay, so LLI is a reading program. This is from Mrs. O'Hara, who is the Director of Special Education. LLI is a reading program that is used when students are not making progress in the grade level reading program. It is a supplemental program to the grade level reading program. It is used in self-contained, resource room, ICT classes, and as part of RTI at the elementary level for non-classified students. Our students with dyslexia are mostly successful or more successful using an Orton-Gillingham program. The one that we have found to be most successful is the Wilson Reading Program. In order to teach Wilson, the teacher must be a Wilson certified teacher, which takes a year to achieve. There are some programs of Wilson's, such as Just Words, where teachers can be certified in 3 days and not a full year. We have also used a program by Linda Mood Bell for 1 or 2 of our students. The teachers that teach this program are trained but not certified.
And I think I have one other question. Did you put
The NAEP data, I don't believe is completely available, but I will have her, when Dean pulls all the data for our success rate this year with our kids in literacy and mathematics, I will have him have that information for you at the August 3rd meeting as well.
I appreciate it.
No problem.
I have a question. So prior to the pandemic, we had a discussion about having open swim, free swim.
Yep.
Are we looking to resurrect that and to make that available to our community?
So let me work with Mr. Mallory about that.
Okay, because I was under the impression that that is definitely manageable and we can do something for our community.
Yep.
Okay. The other question I have, and so with the questions regarding the CRT, there's also been some discussions about the sex education that's being taught. Are we making any changes? Are we still following what we are doing where the parents are opting in or out or opting out? And are we changing
that curriculum? Are we introducing children younger? Are we still doing it, I think it's sixth grade or fifth grade? Yeah, fifth grade, and then sixth grade you do something, it's once a year that through the health. So we're not starting it prior to fifth grade, but we're still continuing to maintain what we have now, or is that gonna change as well?
That curriculum has been updated recently, so I can certainly get you the scope and sequence of what that curriculum looks like
Okay,
in health.
but nobody under fifth grade, and fifth grade is just a slight introduction?
I'm not going to say yes or no to that. I think there's developmentally appropriate discussions on my own personal body and making sure that people feel comfortable. But I can certainly get you the scope and sequence as it's changed, because it changed just recently in New York State Education
No,
Department.
I'd like to see that.
Yep.
Please share it with the board.
I don't think tonight's tonight, but I think I'd like to bring up mental health and put that for a future discussion, because we've been talking the talk, but now I think it's time to walk the walk.
Yep.
This year is the time to do it. Thank you.
What was some of the other, I can't see in front of me. What else was on that list? Oh, absolutely. That was, what are we doing with the declining enrollment? I mean, we're adding positions, but we are not adding children. So that's the situation in itself. We have much less children each year. I mean, I looked at what you sent me, it was like this. So how do we even say, yes, let's hire more high-end administration when we have less students?
Can I answer that quickly? Because you want small class sizes.
Oh, I never said educators, I said high-end administration. Not the educators. I'm for hiring enough educators to have classes that are under 20. That's me. I believe kids learn better in a smaller, and we had this discussion, a smaller classroom setting. And I also believe that it makes absolutely no sense when you have 25 kids in one classroom at one element, and this is more for elementary school, and another school that has 14, and then you say there's equity across the district. It's not. There's not equity across the district, because in that class of 25, you now have an educator who has 25 kids in their classroom, and 5 of them may not be diagnosed, may not have 504s, may not have IEPs. What are you doing for that teacher that doesn't know that her classroom has got all sorts of, she has special needs that she
They're
can't
working on
attend
that.
to?
I only mentioned one thing. I didn't want to go into a 20-minute discussion. Just mention one thing. Why do we have administrators? Common sense to me, why we need administrators. If you have 500 kids and then you have 450 kids, why wouldn't we do the same thing for those 450 kids? We would have to have an administrator. We have to give them the best education that we can afford.
I'm fine with an administrator. I'm not fine with an assistant to an assistant to an assistant. I'm not fine with a director, an assistant director. As a matter of fact, we discussed bringing back a position, which I don't know if you're bringing it back or not. I'm totally against it. A position that was a made-up position, that's a half and a half, totally made-up position. It hasn't been discussed yet, but I'm totally against it. We were told that when the person left, that position was leaving too. We don't just make $100,000 to $200,000 positions for no reason. We just don't do that.
Each one should be coming up individually. Let's just move this conversation along.
But you understand what I'm saying?
Each one should be moved on.
Well, when we have less children in the district, we should not be just creating positions that we've never had before, except for a year and a half or 2 years ago.
I think it's on a
And it's
case-by-case basis, and
Correct.
Absolutely.
but you're being very vague right now, so when we get to the point of whatever
I think Linda knows
administrative,
what I'm talking
the people here don't.
about. Okay. We had an assistant, what was it?
An assistant director of PPS?
Assistant director of PPS, which was a, 0.5?
Correct.
And then a 0.5 of, go ahead, what was the other one?
So when the position was originally created, it was a 0.5 assistant director of PPS and a 0.5 assistant principal of Sycamore Avenue Elementary School. Because Sycamore had just had an influx, we changed the way we did our special education programs. I know, but I'm explaining the position. So the position was originally created because we changed the way that we did special education in the district. We wanted kids to be able to access the least restrictive environment, which is law. So if there was a child who needed an ICT class, which is an inclusion class where they're included in the general education population with a little bit of support and help in order for them to get to where they need to be successful. But they also needed a small class, which is a little more restrictive with a little more help in order to access other parts of the curriculum. We moved them from being distributed around the district to being both those services at Cherokee Elementary School and at Sycamore Elementary School. And with that inclusion of those kids, the enrollment at Sycamore went up significantly, as well as the amount of meetings that our faculty and staff needed to attend. And the board at that time felt that there was a necessity for a middle school, an assistant principal to take over a part of that role. So the job was created as a half PPS because, as you pointed out earlier, there's a lot of stuff that comes out of that office, and that person, the board felt needed some help, and that the Sycamore Avenue Elementary School also could use some help. So
That's not the position I'm discussing at this
so
moment.
that position morphed, and the board cut the 0.5 at Sycamore, and we put that position as a 0.5 principal of the alternative high school and 0.5 PPS assistant director. That person has since left the district. You know, the board has not told me whether we can hire the 0.5 PPS assistant director yet, and I have not even requested that discussion to happen. I did request in writing, and we haven't had the discussion in public yet, about putting the director of guidance back, which is actually a position that the community raised a few years ago when we had our pillar committees. One of the things that the community brought forward was that there was regulatory need for someone to oversee guidance K through 12. And so they felt that guidance district-wide would be better served by having someone district-wide. And that position was put in, I want to say 4 years ago, on the advice of the pillar committee that was part of that discussion that we had. That was also abolished, but it's needed in the regulations in order to have what we need regulatorily, which is oversight of guidance K through 12.
Yes, but isn't it, we need a person to be, a person that is appointed to that, but it doesn't have to be a director. It could actually be somebody who, like an assistant principal, which it was for many, many years, who oversees it. And in a high school our size, if I was gonna put another administrator there, I would prefer an assistant principal versus a director of guidance. That's just me, because the assistant principal oversees guidance as well, one of them.
But only in that building. So that assistant principal was assigned to that building and
Originally, this has now morphed into a different conversation anyway, but originally, the conversation you and I had, and I've had with many, is that how many children are in the academy that we are gonna spend an exorbitant amount of money.
I'm not asking for that position.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, well, we discussed it. And so I'm just saying, it was a discussion, and so then the academy children will fall under the principals,
Correct,
which, that's what it should, because there's not that many kids.
correct.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I don't wanna see district money for our fiduciary
responsibility, we just can't have positions while, when I looked at it, it was like something, and I don't have the exact numbers, you would know, something like 7,000 kids to down to like 4,400. Something,
5,000 down to 4,400.
no, when I
Right
saw
now,
it
we have
going
about
back years.
35, it was a projection, and honestly, I think it's about 3,500 in the district right now.
So it's
How
a
many
huge
students in the high
loss.
school?
Excuse me?
How many in the high school?
Currently enrolled in the high school are 1,754 students. That was in the 2021 school year.
And there was 2,000, right? So you're slowly moving down from
In 2008, there were 2225.
Right.
And so it's, 15 years, 13 years, and we're down to 1,754. I'm not asking for additional staff at the high school. What I'm asking is district-wide staff as a director of guidance to fulfill the regulatory responsibility and oversee the guidance plan, which also would help mental health-wise district-wide, which we will put together a whole plan for you on what we're want to do with some of the CRRSA funds that are coming our way, because we're going to have students that are going to have a tough time coming back. Even if it's kids who are in the whole year, that were in every other day and then came back at the end of the year, especially for our kids who were fully virtual all year, I think we're going to see some need increase. So I think bringing the Director of Guidance back would be something that the board might want to consider in order to have that overview district-wide.
We also need the initiatives that we was talked about for over a year now that haven't been done. We had this
we'll put
conversation
together-
about the mental health initiatives that need to be.
Yeah.
The mental health
Well,
initiatives that
that's
need.
on there, but it is important that we have preferably the one that was abolished back, because he not only helped the high school, he was in the middle school. He did in his short time what I haven't seen Connecticut do in 24 years. So I'm going to advocate, and that, end of story. I mean, he's wonderful. Parents, even educated parents, all parents, loved him because they had someone they can reach out to, and he helped the guidance counselors be better. It's like anything else in life. You start a position, and if you get no mentoring from the time you start, and you're there for 30 years and no one tells you anything other than you're the social worker or you're the guidance counselor or you're the teacher, and no one helps you be better. That's wrong. In any profession, that's wrong. That's why they have programs that you go to. That's why they have mentoring. And the same for guidance. It's wrong just to let guidance counselors sit there the time that they're hired till the time they retire without any mentoring. And this is what this gentleman did for Connecticut, in addition to adding other scopes. Plus he knew the different colleges, and he could reach out to them personally. He was an asset.
But Lee, the problem I think we don't realize is it's not about the person, or it's about the position.
And
was cut, hold on, because of our financials as of March 10th of 2020. The meeting where we were gonna access dozens. No, we're gonna go back because that's what we're supposed to do is if we don't look at the past, we're bound to repeat it. So let's remember, we have to learn lessons. That's the truth.
We spoke about that, and we talked about it.
And I
and we went
understand
back.
that, but if we're gonna discuss a position that was abolished, let's discuss why it was truly abolished.
They don't care.
Well, no,
It was truly abolished, it was truly abolished because of finances. Linda, was it abolished because we just pulled it out of the sky?
Yeah.
Or was it abolished because of finances?
It was
Hold on. At that time, 3/10/2020, go back and watch the video. I watched it and I was actually stunned to see that it looked like we were in financial trouble on 3/10/2020. Now, there's money falling out of the sky for everything. But when this is what I really didn't get, and I never saw it before, but I see it now, I never realized how bad Armed Guards was actually pinned against the accessing of 30 or more people. It was actually pinned against it. I never saw it so vividly until the other day when I watched 2 hours and 46 minutes of a meeting and said, how did I not see this vividly? Because it made no sense that now, a year and a half later, we're out of a pandemic, $7 million we spent, $7 million. We were able to fund our reserves, plus we were able to go up to we were able to fund up to 16 million. I still don't really know where the other 8 million is right now, but that's something I gotta look into. But what I'd like to know is, we're in such a financial great spot. If we're able to hire all these people back, are we not? Because we weren't in that financial spot on March 10th of 2020.
Let's move on.
No, I want to hear the superintendent answer. She knows more than I do. I'd like to know.
Honestly, I didn't get that feeling March 10th, whatever year it was.
Oh, why was the position why was the position abolished? Let's not keep making it that it was abolished because we pulled it out of the sky.
It was abolished because you heard she put out a memo, or Dean put out a memo to the educators. There's a possibility of X amount of cuts.
No.
That's why you did
Teachers were crying in hallways. Aides were crying in hallways. Let's never forget that. My nephew was in the school. I'm positive of what went on. People were going to lose their jobs, Lee. Let's not ever ever take that for granted. This is their livelihoods. We were actually gonna watch teachers crying in a high school, aides crying. This is their livelihood that was gonna be taken away because we were gonna excess, not me, but this board and admin hadn't even told us. You remember that? We walked into that meeting and didn't even know that what we were about to deal with. The only reason we heard about it is because Mylin and I were on Facebook, on social media. That is why if you watch the meeting, it says, we didn't want the teachers, we didn't want the educators, we didn't want what I call boots on the ground, but the people in the classrooms working with the kids. We wanted to chop from the top if you had to. Chop from the top, where I don't feel like that hurts the children in the classroom like it does saying, hey, we're gonna get rid of 30 teachers and put 27 to 28, 30 first graders in a class. Great idea. It's a great idea. And guess what happened after that? 3 days later, a pandemic hit. And guess what? Now we were down to 10 kids in a class. So I guess that accessing 30 teachers would have been a really stupid move. No?
So what are we trying to accomplish right now? Like, what are you looking for?
Where
'Cause
the
you just
money
said
is.
a
I'd
lot of
like to
things,
know where the
and-
money is. Where's the money?
Okay.
If on March 10th, 2020, we had no money, had to
Dr. Adams,
access positions.
can we figure that out at some point in next executive session? We can answer that question and then we can talk about it? Because I
It's
don't
not
think
an
it's gonna get
executive
answered right now.
conversation. It's not an executive conversation, it's a public conversation.
Okay, is that answer gonna get questioned tonight, Dr. Adams?
So I can give you a brief discussion on that. So there was money put into the budget for an energy performance contract that didn't need to be in the budget that year, which is something that was actually explained many times after the March 10th meeting, both in writing to the community on a question and answer that was about 30 pages long. What happened the night of of March 10th was actually a week before we were supposed to go over the staffing. What we did at that point was show the board that their budget guidelines, that we had many classes way below their budget guidelines. There was not one elementary class that we were looking at cutting. But in that presentation, I gave actual class sizes, with proposals to get those classes into the range that was in the budget guideline. So I'll just give you an example. English 7 in RMS that year had an average class size of 15. The budget guidelines on secondary staffing is that no class should be under 20. And our staffing for K2 was 22 to 25 and 3-5 was 25 to 28. This board has since changed those numbers for this school year. However, we felt 24 in an English 7 class was appropriate. So when you went to 24 in an English 7 classes, that was a decrease of 0.4 FTEs, full-time equivalent, so 2 periods of a teacher's schedule. In RMS that year, in English 8, there was an average class size of 16. We have many, as Jackie has so appropriately pointed out. I'd rather have 15 and 16 in a kindergarten class than in the 8th grade English class. I think 8th graders can probably comport themselves well enough that 24 can sit and learn at the same time. So if we went to that class size, that would be another 0.4 English teacher if we cut those sections and made them a little bit bigger. English study skills in RMS that year had 7 as an average class size. We proposed for that to go to 15. That was another 0.3 English teacher. So what I was pointing out to the board that night, which was supposed to be the week after, was if we went to budget guidelines and some more appropriate secondary scheduling numbers, we could, for all intents and purposes, cut to 3.2 secondary English teachers without hurting the children and without hurting the program. Did I ever think the board would say, oh yeah, cut 3.2 secondary English teachers? Not at all. But the truth was, at that moment in our budget, we had energy performance contract money that didn't need to be in there. A, we couldn't get the work done, and B, it needs to be offset with how our energy performance goes down and the amount that we use. So when we went back to the drawing board and looked once again, because the board said, you need to find money, we went back and we said that was a big faux pas that was in there. But this presentation was to show that we were not going to hurt one child by going from a class size of 16 to a class size of 24 when you're looking at Math 8, Math 7. And it was true, absolutely true data at that point. So we went back, found that money, and 2 or 3 board meetings later, the Board of Education walked on a list of cuts and they were all administrative cuts. So the money was there at that point because we had found that money in the budget and other things that we had cut, smaller things and made some changes, and we had that money. So those cuts were not made due to a deficit of funding at that point.
But you didn't, okay, well, she just finished, and those cuts were found after how many educators were told that they potentially could be accessed? Isn't it sad that it got to that? But yet when it was
You asked her a question.
when it was
Jackie,
an administrator.
Jackie, please stop now.
when
I'm gonna shut the meeting
administrators
down. No, if you're gonna be,
First of all, I'm talking.
but you
in a
asked the
part-
question, you asked the question. Now let her answer the
saying
question.
something.
We got to move this on.
Okay, well, you can move it on, but the truth is, administration found money after administrators were going to be cut.
Brian, would you?
That's what happened. That's the truth. And if we want to like sit here and play this game, that's fine. But we need to really recognize what happened.
Okay.
Okay, but it was okay when it was the lower people, it was okay. When it was educators, that was okay. But when it was the administrators, that wasn't okay. I'm just against the whole thing.
Dr. Adams, can you continue the story, what you did?
So the board said that they did not want to cut this amount of teachers. They actually gave me a certain amount of teachers that they thought would be appropriate because some of these class sizes were really,
Can you
really
take
out of
one
whack.
step back?
Yes.
From what I was told, you sent out notices to more teachers than you were planning on cutting, just for the sheer purpose of if they could find another job elsewhere. That's what I was told. I mean, is this true?
So the Friday before anybody was spoken to, and they were spoken to off the record because it was not ever happening in the HR office, we knew that this presentation was going to be presented. So we felt that the principals and the people who were working with them, the directors who were working with these teachers, they deserve the right to be able to get their resumes out if they were potentially going to be cut. Did I ever once think that we would be cutting this amount of people? No. I thought that if I showed to the board where some of our class sizes were a little bit out of whack, like I'll give you another example, and I have all these slides, they're probably still on the website somewhere. In RMS, our physical education classes in 7th and 8th grade that year had an average size of 17. I can't even play a baseball game in that class because I can't field 2 9-person teams. That's inappropriate for a size of a physical education class. In OBMS, my 7th and 8th grade physical education averaged at 15. These are very, very small classes. We brought this to the board with the proposed number of 24, which is still small, average to small, for a physical education class. Once we looked at all of that, RMS, OBMS, and CHS, that would have been 2.8 secondary physical education teachers. Did I think the board would say, cut every single one of these? Absolutely not. I wanted to present the data, and so when we presented the data, we knew that that would ripple through the teachers. So we did have a meeting with the principals and the directors. I did send it home an email to the board prior to that meeting happening where we looked at this data together and said, this data doesn't fit our budget guidelines. And at this moment, we're looking at $1.5 million in deficit, which, yes, we found, but not because of administrative cuts. We found it because the board went, look, we're not going to do cuts like this. The draconian, I never expected them to do cuts like this. I would never want to do cuts like this, but I don't know where the board was going to go. So we asked the directors and the principals just to say, look, this is going to be discussed in public. It doesn't mean you're losing your job, but the board will cut where the board thinks is appropriate. Not one conversation happened out of HR. That's when it's real. When HR has the discussion, they go to the person to say, look, you're being excessed because of enrollment going down, because of class sizes being too small, and that's when it's real. There was nothing real at that point. It was just a look, this is going to be discussed in public, and we don't want you to be blindsided. So the board knew in my email, the teachers knew from the people who they worked with, and then we had this conversation with the board, and then a few months later, the board cut 6 administrative positions. At that point, we had found the energy performance money and knew that we had made that mistake.
Can you provide an overview of what the guidance counselor did, of the director of guidance did?
So he worked with the guidance and other mental health professionals to create the district-wide guidance plan.
So he oversees the YFS department and the psychologist or?
No. So psychologists are overseen out of special education. YFS is overseen out of PPS. guidance counselors were overseen by the director of guidance.
How many people does he oversee? How many people does one director oversee?
So I don't have that number directly in front of me right now.
How many guidance you don't know how many guidance counselors are at the high school?
I think we have 7.
In the
He was
middle
also at the middle
schools.
schools, and he also was responsible for putting the guidance plan in each one of the elementary schools and working
Can we
with
discuss that at the next
YFS and
meeting? I'd
Sonos.
like to know the amount of people he actually had under him that he had to,
I believe it was 17,
okay. And the other thing is-
inclusive of the 2 middle schools.
Thank you. And also, one last question. You have, 2 weeks after 3/10, actually 3 days later, the pandemic hit, we closed the school doors. And 2 weeks later, how many teachers did we hire? Because we had excess, now we had to hire people. So how many did we hire? I wanna know how many we hired, I don't remember. I wanted to refresh my memory. How many did we have to hire to get through the next year after we were about to excess?
We ended up
3 dozen.
hiring 12 elementary teachers to do the virtual program. We hired 4 special ed teachers to do the virtual program. We did hire, I think, 1 or 2 special area teachers, PE, art, music. We did have a part-timer in there too, so I think the number is actually around 2.8. So,
To do a significant hiring, really, that's what I wanted to, we had to do after all these people were upset. I just want people to understand why there were administrative
that
cuts.
hiring decision didn't come until after the reopening plan was approved in late July. And we did the scrambling and hiring in August. So, the 2 are exclusive. I just
Well, we were
want to
gonna
make sure we're clear.
excess for the following school year, and now because of a pandemic, which could happen, and now we know it can
No, the
happen.
board made the decision not to excess anybody at that point, so
Right.
we weren't accessing
Part of that,
anyone.
Jackie, I know questions come up, and I know this is my first board meeting, but I also know that we have to follow an agenda, and there's a lot on here.
And I put it on the agenda. This was all on the agenda. You have to look. That's all.
No, I see it, but we've talked about it, and and there's more information that you want to find out, so let's get through the agenda, and
That's why we put stuff on executive content, discussion items, and you can pick anything you like off the discussion, and that's what I was doing. And I'm
No.
sorry if you guys don't wanna understand the history.
no, I understand it, because you've explained it 3 times, so
No, it doesn't. You have to understand it.
I
because people
I just said I
don't
understand.
Because we pulled it out of the sky, the way that it is presented. So I'm just trying to get you guys to understand it, actually everybody. And remind the community
I know.
what actually went on.
I know, that's,
When you get
Because
rid of the,
unfortunately, people have selective, and not the community, I feel like on this side of the table, it's a lot of selective, and you guys are brand new, so I'm not talking to you, but we have selective memory on what really goes on.
well, yeah, when
Well,
you
luckily
let
we can
go
go
of
watch
assistant
the-
superintendent for a curriculum, that's pretty serious when you're running a
guess
school
what?
district.
And guess what? We don't wanna discuss that one, because
Then he cannot do that job. So then, well, there's no sense in doing that. Now, this is turning into a private discussion. I have a different opinion, other board members have a different opinion. I know, if you abolish a position, you can't hire someone else for that position, they'd have to do it. Come on and do something different. I like what was being done. I like where we were heading. So how can you bring someone on as assistant superintendent and call him a director, and you can't give him those duties? So, and move on. I'm sure there are community members here that want to speak. I don't have the language in front of me, but I know you have 3 minutes. We are being timed by Jesse. Do not have to mention your name. Please be respectful. We're not necessarily going to give you an answer, but we'll hear what you have to say, and I am sure one of the administrators will follow up with an answer if they can't provide it tonight. Thank you.
For kids who are in RTI, it's an upper level service.
And what literacy program is offered in our, is it different for elementary, middle school, and high school?
So I'm going to have Mrs. Poppy get back to you with all the different programs that we have in place, elementary, middle, and high. Because we've done a lot of work with Columbia, but we moved out with Teachers College. But we've moved away from using their service because we found a way to do it a little bit less expensive, but with the very tenets of the program in place. So I'll have Mrs. Poppy give you an email, if you don't mind.
Yeah, because if you could have her get back to me as far as dyslexia. I know that I have our NAEP results, and literacy were very low as far as the special education children. And I know as far as being part of the special needs community, that we probably in Long Island have one of the worst reputations for dyslexic students, so I'd like to know where those improvements can be.
Okay, so you're looking for the general ed program and also what we're using, because we do have Wilson trained students.
Which is in North Gillingham, and that's great, but our scores for the dyslexic students are not good.
I'm wondering what percentage actually sat for the exams, because we have a very large opt-out movement in the district, so sometimes we're cherry picking.
Cohesive with that is what I'm asking.
Yeah, most of our parents opt out of the NAEP tests because it's a standardized test that is not necessary for their own child's education. So we have a very small percentage that take those tests.
And then as far as, okay, so this is like, I know CRT is a very hot topic right now. My question is, as far as CRT and diverse education, the more foreign language, for example, the more you expose children to different ethnicities and different cultures, the more that becomes inclusive in their day-to-day life. Psychologically speaking, when you point out children's differences, it's inherently a bias right there as somebody being different. So when you start to teach children that they have these differences, look at the different color of your skin, or look at the difference in your background. Children inherit a natural bias right there. So when you look around our buildings, do we have a diverse teaching population? Do we have a diverse staff population as far as administration wise? Do we have diverse student numbers? I know that we do have some, but it's not a lot. And then you talk about changing curriculum and 15-year-old history books. Are children being taught diverse role models? Are they staying in a classroom and they're not just worrying about because you have this curriculum that points out differences, but it doesn't enrich an environment where we look into different types of curriculum that is unbiased and teaches more diversity.
So one of the pushes that Mr. Middleton and Mrs. Poppy have brought to the district is increasing literacy. And you will see classroom libraries that are very much inclusive of diverse literature. So there are heroes and heroines of different colors, different shades, and that way kids can find something on the shelf that speaks to them, and also find things on the shelf that show them kids that don't look like them. That was one of the processes as part of adopting all of the classroom practices and the classroom libraries, is that there's books of kids of all different, of the rainbow, which is, you know, the way our world looks. So to have that as a choice in their hands, we definitely have literacy choices that do show kids of all different colors.
But not every kid's a reader.
Right.
And a lot of it is environmental.
than 25 years. Graduated already. I don't think, and Lee, maybe you would agree, I don't think that in all the years I've seen as much growth as I saw in the last handful of years. That doesn't mean I agree with everything that's gone on and different things we've added and not added and things. But I'm just saying that I feel as though getting rid of some of those top positions, while I thank you all for watching the dollar. Of course, there's been growth, but there was an obvious, there were a lot of change, there was a lot of things added that kids that we didn't have, especially my older kids, didn't have. So I think that's a wonderful thing. As far as letting go of some higher ups rather than, you guys do that job well and you know the numbers and I'm not good with numbers and all that. But I just want to say that when class sizes are that low that you were describing, nobody wants to see anybody lose their job. We're in it for a second time now. My husband hasn't worked in 18 months. People lose their jobs, even teachers. And it's horrible, but it seems like that's always, oh my God, teachers don't lose their job. It's awful. It's awful. But it happens. It happens. We can't be. Don't touch a teacher. If it's got to be, if class sizes are that small, these are ridiculous numbers. It'd be lovely for all the kids to have only 15 kids in their class. And certainly the babies, the young kids, we want to see that happen. But I happen to agree. If class size calls for it, then like my husband, things change and some people have to lose their jobs, at least temporarily, So I don't know where it falls into everybody else's thought process, but I just want to say, horrible to lose jobs, but at the taxpayer's expense, let's not just keep them just because we don't want to be a district that let go of teachers. Oh, it happens. It happens. So just don't put it off limits. We're all in the same boat.
Okay. We saw your email today regarding no mask for summer school, which, thank you for that. And that came down from the DOH, as we know, that they didn't see a need to mandate masks for summer school, which, of course, then there shouldn't be masks for the upcoming school year. As we've seen with scientific and mathematical proof, children are not super spreaders. As per COVID.net, that basically the rate of hospitalization of COVID for children from 0 to 17 is 3 per 1 million, which is very small. The fatality rate for children, it's very, very low. The CDC, the WHO, they've made statements children are not super spreaders. So we have that. But we also have the data that was provided to us in the emails that we received from Mr. Middleman all year. I think there were about 124 emails that we received from the district every time, how many positive cases there were. And we found, which sounds like a lot, there were about 648 cases over the course of 180 days. But we have to consider the fact that these are positive cases, meaning people were getting tested because they were going to an event, they were going to see somebody. We don't actually have statistics of how many people were actually sick. If we actually tested for COVID the way we test for everything else, that number would drop drastically. We also have to keep in mind that the survival rate of these 648 cases was 100%. We never heard that anybody actually, we know what we've heard about COVID, but in our district alone, 100% survival rate in the schools. Our schools are not a hot spot for COVID. It doesn't fit the description for a deadly virus when you have that type of rate. We also saw that after the students went back in March,
there were 27 out of the 58 remaining school days where there was 0 cases, absolutely nothing reported. The rate drastically dropped at that point, and they were in school. So if you think the school's a hotspot, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit the math. So I want to just ask that in your reopening plan for the next school year, consider this. Consider what the CDC says, which we have had to do, which they say that children are not super spreaders, but look at our own district, what we've had here. And that should play a huge role in how you plan for the next school year. So please consider that. Fight for us. Our children need to breathe. And the masks that they're wearing, you go on the boxes, the websites, and almost all of them, unless it's in a 95, they say doesn't prevent viral transmission. It's just a false sense of security for these kids. And it's hurting them. It's hurting them. As we know from the JAMA article, CO2 rates, very bad. The amount of inhalation of carbon dioxide was very bad for children. So please consider that. Thank you.
Me again. Okay, so will PTA meetings resume in person in the fall?
So you're asking me something I can't answer because I don't have any guidance yet. So I can't even talk about a reopening plan because even though it's middle of July, we have no reopening guidance from anyone. So will adults, excuse me?
We're getting guidance, why can't you be your own guidance? I'm so sorry. Sorry. I don't wanna be sorry. This is the most, I'm tired of hearing that answer, it's ridiculous. I wanna know what's going on in September so I can plan for my children, because they're not coming back to school. Distance, in plexiglass with masks, so I'm tired of I'm waiting for guidance. You are the guidance.
I'm not the guidance.
You're the guidance.
So earlier today,
Dawn,
you saw me.
Can you please ask her to get up behind the podium?
Earlier
Podium?
today, you
She's
saw
not
all of
listening.
us take the oath of office. And one of the things that we swear to uphold is the Constitution of the State of New York. That means we need to uphold the regulations that are handed to us. It's not something I love to have to say, but the truth of the matter is, everybody sitting at this table swears the same oath, saying we are going to uphold the Constitution of the State of New York and the Constitution of the United States. Please stop. They're regulations, and the regulations are part of the Constitution because of the freedom
Dr. Adams?
of public education.
Do not,
Okay, but these are not, these are recommendations, so you're.
wait, this is not supposed to be an argument. You have to say,
I'm asking a
you
question.
have 3 minutes to
When-
ask questions, and then you have to remain
Thank you.
silent, let her answer them.
Thank you.
This is the community, let them talk.
They are talking. Stop.
100%. But I would like an answer. At what point do we get an answer so we know what we're doing with our children in September? September 9th? Approximate.
I can't answer that question.
Because
Because we have no regulatory guideline from the New York State Department of Health,
regulatory.
nor from the New York State Education Department. And
But we
those are
do.
the regulations we must follow.
But we do. We actually have
We don't.
all of that.
We don't. We have nothing for the 21-22 school year.
Am I reading something that you're not? I mean, I read everything from the CDC to the DOH to the guidelines to this to that to the
Okay,
state.
I'm gonna ask,
I'm so sorry.
I'm gonna ask that you
Yeah.
send that information, everything you read, forward it to the
No, I
superintendent.
shouldn't have to.
Well, because
I
she's
have
not,
3 children. I shouldn't have to. This is your job, not
well,
mine.
she's telling you what the responsibilities of,
I'm asking you, what do you mean guidelines? We have the guidelines, but ultimately it's left up to you. So what is the plan? I'm not waiting for September 15th, 20th to decide what I'm doing with my children that I have to figure out by then. I think that's unfair of you to ask from the community. You're gonna put it out last minute. I think it's really selfish. Do you have children in the district? Do you have little ones?
I have 3 in the
Do you have little
district,
ones?
and it's frustrating
I'm not,
as much as you are.
I'm sorry. Do you have little ones? It's not even up to you, unfortunately. It's not even, you can offer your guidance. It's not even up to you. So, answer.
Excuse me, but it's not up to me as well. It's up to the State Education Department to put the regulations out in the guidance of the New York State Department of Health. The CDC
Which
is not.
they
a
have
regulatory
done.
agency. They have not done that for the 21-22 school year. If I were to use the same guidelines as we had last year, we would reopen the exact same way. I don't believe that's appropriate. But I also do not have the guidance, the guidelines, or the regulations yet from the New York State Department of Health, nor from the New York State Education Department.
The last
It's not
BOE
up to me.
meeting I was at, you admitted that you were being threatened by the DOH. People were actually coming to the school, threatening the pensions, the whole nine. So, no, I'm sorry. Did that actually happen? Thank you. Because,
The funding.
Okay.
They said they were gonna pull our.
you actually admitted
They
they
did.
were coming to the school
did that to
threatening
the
to
Sachem
take
School
away your
District.
funding.
They said that
Okay,
to the Sachem School
okie
District.
dokie. I care about my children. I don't care about your funding. I don't care about your job. So I'm gonna ask again, because the guidelines have already been put out. When are you going to make a decision what we're gonna do in September? Because you can.
No further
You have the
information for
power
you.
to, though.
I do not have the power to. I am an
Okay.
agent of the
I'm not gonna
New York
say
State Department of Education and the New York State Department of Health. I do not have the right to make that decision until their guidance is out. I have nothing else to say to
But
you.
they already
You
put the
want me to
guidance out.
They did not put the guidance out. There is no guidance from the New York State Education Department, nor is there from the New York State Department of Health for reopening for the 21-22 school year. Hasn't happened.
Patty, if I may, I know it's frustrating, but they did say that they were giving the summer school guidance, and then upcoming in the following weeks, they were gonna do the regular school guidance.
We all know what's coming. My point is, we all know what's coming, is the guidance.
Is she serious that she just adjourned it while I came up here?
No. The guidance is gonna be.
Can you guys,
No one can just come up here
let us talk, oh, give me a
and
minute.
do that.
She was walking off. It's my turn now.
Can you guys just please do me a favor and just bring it down? We're listening and we understand how frustrated
did
you are.
was walk
I just
up
don't
and
want
she's
Lee to
adjourned the
have to,
meeting.
we're not gonna adjourn the meeting. We're gonna have to call a vote to that. That's ridiculous. We're not adjourning the meeting. We're letting you guys talk because you have a right to talk. You are the taxpayers. They're your children. You have a right to advocate for your
You
children.
have a right to get
She has-
online.
they-
Excuse me, Jackie,
They
enough.
have a right to
Enough.
advocate for their children. Are you kidding? Stop.
You get online like everyone else, it's protocol. You don't follow the protocol, then we don't do it.
Lee.
End of story, end of story.
Okay? So you try
You
to
have
talk to
3
them, not
minutes.
argue with them.
Excuse me, you
I'm
have
not
3
even gonna
minutes.
take 3 minutes.
Well, it's
I'm not gonna
okay, you
take
have
that.
3 minutes.
Okay.
When 3 minutes is up, you know, we respectfully go to your
Expected date.
seat.
Do you have an expected date that you would be getting this guidance? Are there any rumblings of by July 30th, August 10th? There's got to be some sort of rumblings of guidance coming down the line.
So we expected it by June 30th. So they're already late.
We're past.
Yeah.
Is there another rumbling of when the next date is?
So the Superintendent's Association of New York State sits with the governor's office on a weekly basis to say, we're scheduling schools right now. So without having any guidance, you're going to make us scramble again. We really wanted it before the school year ended so that we could spend the summer scheduling
Doing it.
classes and scheduling schools. The fact that it's not here right now is kind of disgusting, to be honest with you.
100%.
And all superintendents on Long Island are frustrated, just like you guys are. We would love to be able to say to you, this is how things are going to work in September, because this is the guidance that they gave us, but we don't have it yet.
So maybe when you guys go to the meeting, and I know other parents in other districts feel the same way, parents are going to pull out of the district if this guidance comes down the way parents think it's going to come down. So you already have enrollment declining. There's going to be a lot more.
The people
So
you should
I
be talking to are upstate.
hope we turn a new leaf and we go back to a normal. Because the new normal, that's not it. And I really hope that the Board of Education of New York does not call the parents bluffs. Because parents are prepared to leave their districts. And I think that the district should keep that in mind when they go to these meetings. If you have any say with the governor's office, let them know.
So the taxpayers have say with the governor's office. We wrote letters in the spring saying, take our letter, send it up, inundate them. Because we need them inundated. We need them to make the decision that makes sense with the science, would make sense across the country, the things that we've learned across the world with having COVID this year. We need guidance that makes sense, and we need it quickly so that we can be ready to open in September, hopefully completely normal, because that's where I want to be as well.
Exactly.
But I need you guys out in the public to inundate the decision makers, because we're not the decision makers.
We
Inundate
do.
them.
Do you know how many emails I've sent? I think they shut off their server because they were getting so many emails from so many parents in New York State
Awesome. That's what they need.
that it actually was starting to get bounced back to parents as mail or demon. All of a sudden, their website, their email didn't even exist anymore. But I just keep that in mind. Parents are ready to pull out of this district, other districts. That's real.
Mhm.
Where we're gonna go? We could go to homeschool. Parents are willing to move. We have a lot of places to go. Keep it in mind, we're not stuck.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Statements? Nothing. Okay, at this time, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Wait, I think she had one more.
Do you have someone?
One more question on the heels of that, if I
Okay, go ahead.
Base, I heard what you said, that you're getting your guidance from the Department of Health, Department of Education. And the one thing that I just want to, if you can clarify this for me, on June 4th, we received that email we have the Department of Health, we got the email from you, yay, we can go to school on the 7th on Monday, no mask. And we were going by that. Department of Education killed all of our hopes that Sunday on the 6th. And this time around, the Department of Health came out and said no mask for summer school. So, and we're following it, just like we were last time. We're not, but the Department of Education hasn't said anything. So why was the Department of Education making a decision for us in June when now you can ignore them? I mean, does that make sense? Like you were going by both of them last time, but this time only one of them. So what's the difference now?
Their guidance came out together. When they did the reopening plans when they gave us, about this time, I think it was July 13th, they actually gave us the reopening plan information that we needed.
You mean for the summer?
For next year, for last year. When we were looking at the 2021 school year, I believe it was July 13th, we actually got the data and information on the reopening from both the State Education Department and the Department of Health, pretty much in concert with each other.
Okay.
So the New York State Education Department doesn't regulate summer school the way they regulate the school year. It's slightly looser. So the fact that they can change it, every other piece of our reopening plan has to remain in place until we change the reopening plan, but they changed it and the board allowed me to go with the different change in that the last meeting they gave me the opportunity to move away from that without having them to vote.
Oh, for the summer?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Can I ask one question? The Department of Education, so we the parents are technically the governing body because we are the taxpayers and we decide what we want for our kids. At what point is that line drawn when the Department of Education is involved? Because for me, if we can speak as much as we want for something that we don't want our kids to be taught or a guideline that we don't want our kids to follow, if the teachers union decides that that's what's best for our kids, are we pretty much like hands up in the air unless we homeschool our kids, we have no choice? Like, where is that line drawn?
Yeah.
Because we're the taxpayers. We're the ones that fund their jobs, and you don't want to be that way, but it is that way.
Right. So the curriculum in New York State is designated and delineated by the New York State Education Department. So if they came out tomorrow, and I'm not saying that they would, but if they came out tomorrow and said every year you have to teach another court case for CRT, we would have to do that as part of the education of the public education because it's part of the regulatory piece of that, which is part of the Constitution of New York State. If a parent does not want to have that education, they can choose another place to educate their child, whether that's a private school,
or home,
or another even a homeschool online kind of thing. But the way the curriculum is handed down, that's what we must follow.
Okay.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.